Hi, friend. If this is your first time here, my name is Elaine, and today I am offering up a new video around a subject that I'm not sure we often have enough information about. And before I get too deeply into that, I will share that I call myself the psychic because I find and have learned over the years that my purpose, generally speaking, as a psychic is to help other psychics because I have a wide range of abilities and I'm a natural teacher and they're just things that, and I'm like a person who loves wormholes of all kinds when it comes to learning information. I am dedicated to learning. I love to learn, and I'm always digging into something new and getting deeper and exploring as far as a subject will let me go. So I tend to have a wealth of information around a lot of things when it comes to something that I'm interested in. And of course, I'm very interested in being psychic, and I have been my whole life. But quickly, to share a little bit of my background, if you don't know this already, I generally I did not consider myself a psychic most of my life, even though I had very deep psychic abilities. And that's part of sometimes our journey as a psychic is to shut those abilities down because we do have that choice. We can do that. And there are varying ideas around what that will do to you as a person if you shut off your abilities. But I think we're seeing that in humanity at large right now because as we probably are beginning to learn, I think most of us are beginning to learn that really every human is psychic on some level. Some of us are born with more abilities naturally than others, but I think we can all learn these abilities and learn how to hone them and to get better at using them. So that's what I'm here for, is to help with that. And I want to support as many people as I can on that journey because it's important to me that other people feel as supported as I have in learning about how this affects your life and what it can do for you when you learn how to use these abilities in a way that benefits you instead of feeling like they're a burden. Because I feel sad when I hear people tell me how much they hate being an empath or how much they hate being a medium or, just feeling overwhelmed by what's going on with them and feeling like this is just some sort of a curse. And that's not how you should have to feel about yourself. Nobody should feel that way. But that goes into the subject that I want to talk about today with you. And before I get into it, I do want to admit that I am in a different location than where I would like to be to film right now, because there's a lot of noise in my environment today. But I feel like that's part of what's going on for us in general as the world begins to have certain secrets revealed. Let's just put it that way. And now you can maybe you can hear my cat. I don't know if you can or not. He's desperate to get in this room right now because this is a room where normally they would be allowed and I have to shut the door so that they don't wreak havoc. I love them, but they're still young. Anyway, so let's dive in. I want to talk about trauma today. I say it in that way to be lighthearted a little, but I know. Man, I know trauma has, if you've been alive on this planet for any length of time, you've been traumatized. Just coming into this world, period. Being born is a trauma, because it is. It's a very huge shock to your system. If you've ever been a parent, a mother particularly, and you've given birth, you know what a shock to your system that is. And imagine how that poor baby feels, being squished and confused and now in the world, and it's bright and it's loud and it's scary and it's awful in a lot of ways compared to that warm, loving environment that you might have been in before. So trauma is a real thing, and it's a part of this world at the moment. if you listen to Ann Tucker, who is a trance channel who channels angels, she talks a lot about how at some point in the future, we will be no longer living in this model of having to survive the trauma to overcome things or to grow ourselves, because that's part of life on this planet right now, is that we go through certain difficult experiences to learn things. It's a learning tool, really, is all it is. It's just an opportunity to figure something out about yourself and how to grow in a way that you wouldn't be able to do if you were in your astral body or your true nature, you know, because that's more ethereal and different than the way it is here, especially with, if you go back to your true nature and you leave this human realm, essentially you are, how can I put it? You have all the knowledge of time forward and backward. You have all the understanding of what's happening in someone's mind, and you can read that information and you can feel that, and you know things that are going to happen in a particular way, and you can see how they might unfold depending on choices that are made. So you have a lot of information, which means nothing is ever a surprise to you. Nothing is a mystery because you know it all. So that's not interesting. And you don't have any opportunity to reflect on something if you already know what it's going to be. That's not a type of, I mean, I'm sure there's growth in that world, but it's different than the way it can be done here. This place is where we can grow in a different way because things are not revealed to us. It's a mystery. We don't know what's going to happen if we make a certain choice. We just know that it's going to change things, but we don't know how. I mean, and if you're a seer, you might have an inkling, but you may not know everything. You're certainly not going to know everything about all subjects, right? Because our knowledge here on this earth is limited to what we are able to know around our own experiences. And sometimes, of course, there are things that we can know about the planetary experience or a human experience or around certain events. You know, we may get inklings of that. But again, we aren't necessarily going to ever see the full picture while we're here in this body, because this body in many ways limits that ability. And that's exactly how it was designed. We aren't meant to know everything because this human experience delivers only what we need to know right in front of us. We're living in the now, and every moment is the now. That's where we're supposed to be. But it's really hard to be in the now if you've been through horrible experiences that keep you trapped in past mindsets, past emotions, and past experiences that hold you kind of captive in those spaces of your life. So if you had something terrible happen to you at the age of 3, well, then that experience is where part of your 3-year-old self is going to be stuck if you weren't able to work through it at that time. And most people at the age of 3 don't emotionally have the ability to understand what to do about how to let go of something at that age, and it sticks to you. And that part of you that experienced that terrible trauma is potentially now going to be holding on to that and being stuck at that age, and it fragments away. And so it kind of is like it's set aside in a separate compartment of your mind where you kind of put it in a closet somewhere, and that's where it stays until you're willing to go back and visit that part of yourself again and figure out how to integrate it. But that requires that you understand that this process is what's happening to you if you have a traumatic experience. And most people do not understand that this is what is happening. There is a type of therapy that some people can and do use for this experience, which is called parts work. That can be very effective to integrate the parts of yourself that you feel have been traumatized by something, if you feel therapy is good for you. But you can also do tapping. EFT tapping is a powerful emotional freedom technique. That's what that is, where you're tapping on certain points of your face and your body to release trauma, because there are certain trigger points that will help release certain types of emotional suffering that you might be holding on to. There's also other things like EMDR, which is another relatively new therapy, but it's fairly effective. I think tapping is better, and I've done them all. Like these are all things that I have experienced myself, so I know what they are, so I do know what I'm talking about where my own experience is concerned. But of course, again, this also relies heavily on who's doing the teaching of these things for you. You know, whoever it is that's working with you, that person, if they are good at their work and you're willing to do the work, obviously that's part of it too. But these are all like physical things that we can do, and then also there is shadow work. Shadow work is another way to go in and see what part of you is in need of healing or integration, and you speak to it and you can bring it forward into your present, and you have to do certain things to make sure that that part of you feels safe and comfortable with doing that. And sometimes it'll say no, and you got to respect it and then ask what it is that part of you needs in order to come forward and be with you and integrate with your current self. So these are all things that can happen, and that's amazing. And I highly recommend any of those things that work for you, and on a combination or just one, whatever works, right? We just have to do what feels right to us. Journaling is another thing. It can be very effective. A lot of people call it automatic writing. I have used that for decades. It's amazing. Like I use it on a very regular basis to help myself work through things that I have in my head, and I don't really see them clearly when they're in my head. So when I write them down, they become more clear, which is amazing. So those are some ideas of how we can work through trauma. But I do want to talk a little also about what it can look like when you have experienced certain types of trauma. Because right now, as I film this, and all my videos are fairly timeless, I feel, because most of the time I just teach techniques for how to be better at using your psychic abilities, how to release things from yourself so that your psychic abilities can come through more clearly, that kind of stuff. But right now, as I film this, we are in September of 2025, and this is a very intense time to be alive, I can tell you, as you could probably feel, right? If you're in the least bit psychic, I'm sure you're feeling this energy. It is a lot. It is intense, and I do feel very much like when we're in this eclipse portal between the 7th of September and the 21st, there is a great deal of energy moving, because I have sensed and I have channeled that this is a time where many of us are being asked to reflect on what is holding us back, and we are being asked to do the work to let go. So that's part of the reason I'm making this video right now, is that I do think that we need to let some of this stuff go. It is coming up for me, and it's probably coming up for you. Like, you're probably feeling a little banged around like a pinball in a machine, where you're just getting whacked from one crazy chaotic thing to another. That could be your experience. Perhaps somebody from your past has come into your life suddenly and demanded things of you, or you may have had altercations with people you care about, and you're thinking, what is this? This isn't normally our relationship. I don't understand. Why are we doing this right now? You may have your kids in your life. Maybe they're a little extra energetic and challenging. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. Or even physical stuff, like, I don't know, maybe you had a fender bender, or you fell down your front steps or something, like weird stuff like that can just suddenly, like, normally you're very dexterous, and then suddenly you're banging around at the house a lot and you're cracking into things, like, yeah, weird. But a lot of that, again, has to do with the energy and the way our body processes it. So there is no right or wrong way to process what's happening energetically right now. But just noticing it can often bring attention enough to make you aware of the fact that, I'm realizing I cracked my elbow on something like 3 times today, and it really freaking hurts, and I'm tired of that. Then you can stop it and you can recognize, I keep banging my elbow. What is it trying to tell me? What do I need to know about my elbow right now? Or what do I need to know about this particular pain that my body continues to expect me to experience? there's something going on there. It's not just continuously hitting your elbow for no reason. There's a reason for that. I mean, if you just do it once, that's one thing. But if you're continuously doing the same thing, you keep stubbing your toe, you keep banging your knee on something, you keep tripping over stuff. There's a reason for it, and it's kind of like a subconscious cue that's trying to come forward and give you information of some kind. And that's where it's time to start doing things like automatic writing, asking yourself some questions. Why do I keep banging my toe on things? Or maybe trying to do some meditation and dropping that question in before you meditate and then sitting for a while and see what answers come up. Those are great ways to try things, see what comes up. You could try doing a card reading for yourself. If you're a card reader, there are lots of ways that we can do things, or even like, oh, I'm trying to come up with the word of the thing. Oh my goodness, and it's not coming to me. I keep wanting to say compass, and that is absolutely the wrong word. I don't know, it'll come to me. The little thing that twirls around. I keep wanting to say divination. That is not the word either. But it's similar to divination, where it's got a little crystal, and you hang it, and you know what I mean, right? Try that. Yeah. Yup, this is eclipse time. My brain is really interesting right now. I don't know about you, but even thinking is a challenge, okay? This is the energy. It is very big. It is very powerful, and it's moving through us in a very big way, and it is really asking a lot of us right now. So the best thing you can do is, I hate the word surrender, so I never am going to use that. I'm never going to use it because surrender is, in my mind, a negative connotation. Surrender means giving up. To me, that's what I feel surrender means. Instead, I like to say allow. I'm allowing the energy to teach me what I need to know right now. I'm receiving the information that I need in order to grow, in order to learn, and in order to become my best self. That's kind of where I'm coming from. So I don't use that word surrender, and I hope you won't either, because I just don't feel like it's a good word to use, because it's not about giving up. It is about allowing, and in your sovereignty, you are accepting what the universe is trying to teach you, okay? Your source, your God, whatever you want to call that energy that runs everything, the creator of all things. I don't care what you call that entity or that beingness, but whatever you call it, you're giving it permission to work with you because you're sovereign and you have the choice to say no if you wish, even to the universe. You don't have to say yes to everything. It's okay to say no. And that's an empowering thing for a person who has been through a lot of trauma, particularly. And if you're here, that might be you. Good chance that's you. Because most people who find me, that's true for them. Because unfortunately, what often happens with those of us who are deeply psychic, who have very powerful gifts, we are often the ones who have been through some of the most severe traumas on this planet. And again, I think I've said it before, I'm pretty sure I have, that those of us who have been through those severe traumas, we did that because we're the ones who can survive them, because we have the psychic ability and the life experiences, because we've been here so many lifetimes. We have those experiences under our belt so that we know what to do with the experience of the trauma. Sometimes we give ourselves too much and it doesn't work. That can happen. But if you manage to survive the trauma and you make it to adulthood and you are now on your own and you can make your own decisions for yourself, this is the time where you can now begin to start healing those traumas. And I do feel like it bears mentioning that at this time there is a lot of energy coming up around a particular type of trauma that has happened worldwide. I do want to touch on it, but I want to be careful about how I talk about it, because I don't, first of all, want to draw negative attention to anything, and I certainly don't want to freak people out or scare anyone. But it is serious and it's powerful. So I'm sure that if you have had any inkling of what's going on in the news, in the last 6 months or more, there's a particular person who's been responsible for a lot of traumas in the world. Part of a network, really. But this person is just one person. It's really the network that's the problem. It's not single individuals so much it is the entirety of the way that this trauma has been utilized to control the narrative of what's going on this planet. The trauma is very severe in nature, and it's accompanied typically by a type of hypnosis or mind control where you are trained and you are taught to keep this trauma hidden. You are taught to keep it a secret so that you won't tell anyone. You probably would have missing pieces of memory from your past if you've experienced it. You probably have a lot of PTSD triggers that seemingly come out of nowhere, and you don't understand why they're so bad because you don't remember anything as bad as these triggers seem to be. They don't seem to line up. That would be another clue. There may be particular fear of maybe medical experiences, needles, sharp objects. Certain sounds may do things to you and upset you, freak you out. Or you may even have had an experience where someone will do something that feels disempowering to you, and you recognize it right there and then that that's disempowering and you don't want to have any part of it. But then somehow you're going along with it anyway. Even though in your conscious mind, you're saying to yourself, this isn't good for me. Why am I making the decision to do this? I don't understand. Why am I saying yes right now? I don't want to do that. But you're saying yes anyway? Okay. That's another one. That's part of the hypnosis thing, the mind control, the dropping of energetic boundaries that can happen with this particular type of trauma, and also particular personalities that may be either very triggering for you or that may be very, again, you may feel like as if you both want to be very obedient and also go against them at the same time. You might even, or maybe even just straight up, you just want to be obedient because that personality comes along and you're just doing it, right? You're doing what they tell you. Any of those things could be true. And there's so many more side effects of this particular trauma, but it does, the root of it is very much abuse that stemmed from childhood and typically very severe, but you may not remember it. You may, in fact, there's a good chance that you remember very little of it, if any. But the signs of it are there. The shadow of it is there. Now, if this is true, you've probably also had trouble with intimacy. You've probably had trouble with having a partner of the opposite sex that you can feel comfortable and safe with. Maybe you feel very unsafe with the opposite sex, and you're probably female if this happened to you. It's not necessarily always female that this has happened to you, but typically it is females who experience these things most strongly. There are males who have had this experience, of course, but they are not as common. But all of these things wrapped up into a whole puzzle, they probably confused you for a long time. And for me, I can say that was true, that I did not understand how deep some of this trauma could have gone and how very powerfully it affected really virtually every aspect of your life. it's kind of this undercurrent running through almost everything you do, where it's almost like you're walking around on red alert all the time, looking around you, wondering when is the next thing going to leap out and jump on you because you feel so unsafe. This type of experience, again, is often directed, this type of trauma that you may have survived very often had something to do with, again, a mind control experiment which was conducted by the government, but I think also now there are individuals who utilize this on their own without necessarily needing to be part of a government program. So, and again, I don't want to get too deep into all of the labels, right? What I really want is to get to the nitty gritty of what this means. This is coming up in our collective right now because it's coming to the point where it's time for us to free ourselves from this bondage. This is slavery of the deepest kind. This is slavery of a whole new kind of disturbing and depraved. It is deep, it is entrenched, and because a lot of it is hidden from us, because of the way that it happened, you may have no idea exactly what you're dealing with when it comes time to heal yourself. This is where techniques like EFT tapping can come in, because you can release the trauma without even knowing what it's about, but you need to do that with a person who knows how to do that technique, okay? There's also an opportunity to potentially work with homeopathy. That could be another one that could help with this, because that's an energy medicine that doesn't require you knowing why you have these particular symptoms, but it can help relieve them without you needing to know the cause. Because with therapy, you do need to know what the thing is in order to be able to heal it, because you have to be able to talk about it and look at it and analyze it and pull it apart in order to figure out what to do to make it better. So therapy doesn't always work with this kind of technique, but it can be good for parts work, for, you know, the parts of you that were left behind, and you do maybe have memories of specific traumas that you know were disturbing to you, and you can bring those forward with parts work or with shadow work too. Shadow work can also be available for something like this to a degree, but I wouldn't do that without knowing what you're doing first. I would be careful to make sure that you're working with someone who really is experienced with shadow work and understands it deeply. And maybe even the teal swan method of the connection process could help. That's shadow work of a kind that is very structured, and I actually use that process myself. I think it's great. I don't always agree with everything she has to say about the way things are in the world, but I do think that process is effective, and I do think that it's worthwhile to look at if it's something that you feel drawn to. But in general, trauma is a really serious thing, and it's being asked to be healed right now. And if you have the ability to do that, I suggest that you consider maybe figuring out what process you need in order to let go of some of this heavy, heavy, deep trauma. And you can always, if you have guides and you talk to them and you channel, ask, you know, maybe go see a shaman if you know one. See if they can help you with this process, because they may have some techniques that they may know about, because a shaman would have a slightly different version of energy work, where you can pull things out of a person's energetic field and heal through that method, or take a shamanic journey that can help work through some things. But there are a lot of ways, so there's no right or wrong way around it. Even plant medicine can help. It just depends on what you're doing, but always make sure with this kind of trauma, please make sure you do it with a partner. Please make sure that you're getting somebody who you trust to help you work through this, and you're not just doing it yourself and then potentially opening up some very severe memory that may flatten you to the point where now you've kicked on some kind of trigger that sends you down a path of not wanting to be here anymore. That's pretty serious. It's that serious. And I think you should take it very seriously if these symptoms are part of what's going on with you. Because this is not an easy thing to live with, this kind of trauma. But it's possible to heal it. And it's possible to let it go. And it's possible to get past it. And it is possible to live a good life once you find your way through. And even while you're finding your way through, it's possible to have a much better life and to be free of a lot of these symptoms. But it requires the work. So you can't just wish it away. You can't just say positive thoughts and paint over it and put the Band-Aid on and hope for the best. You really do need to go into those dark places of yourself, and you've got to release those demons. Because if you don't, it's going to continue to plague you for the rest of your life. And that's not a way to live. But regardless, we are being asked. I think at this time, this is a powerful time to let things go. And, you know, if you ever want guidance on it, just ask your guides. You have them. You can do it through automatic writing, or you can sit and meditate. Whatever it is that you do to connect with them, do it. Ask them for guidance on how to handle this. If this seems true to you, if you're feeling like this is who you are, if this is feeling like you had this experience, then I suggest you look deep into that and find some answers for yourself, because this is powerful. This is a powerful experience to work through, and it really is very freeing when you can release things. I want to say on the side, too, that in the process of having this experience myself and healing through it, it's important to say that I recently, very recently, discovered an interesting side effect of what this abuse, this ritualized abuse that's worldwide, again, in a network of very powerful people, when this occurred, there were certain things that also happened, not just in the physical world, but in the spiritual world, the energy world, the world beyond the veil. I had a very interesting experience recently where I was surprised because I'd listened to a reading by Witch and Scythe, and that was so helpful to me. Oh my goodness, it was a powerful reading. I highly recommend that channel if you're into tarot readings. But it was a powerful reading where it was mentioned that a scavenger of some kind of energetic creature, an entity, was kind of hanging around and feeding off of someone's energy in that collective when the reading was being done. I found that fascinating, and I decided to go in and look at my own energy, because even if you're looking at your own energy on a regular basis, there's a lot going on there, right? There's so many ways to look at the energy. There's so many layers, and we aren't going to see everything every single time necessarily around our own energy, especially because we're so used to it. It's not always going to come forward in your mind's eye to see what's there. Because again, some things are hidden from us until the right time for us to heal them, know them, understand them, whatever. So as I say that, it's interesting that when I went in and looked at my own energy field, I did discover this creature kind of hanging around. And but in the reading, it was suggested that rather than see it necessarily as an enemy, treat it like a teacher. I mean, it's not there for your benefit, but it's there to teach you something. So treat it like a teacher and ask it what it wants. Why is it there? And it may not want to agree with you or talk to you, but you may learn something that you need to understand. And so that is what I did. It was a very interesting experience. Now, I've done this before with other creatures, but it just didn't occur to me to do it this time. I don't know why. Or it didn't even occur to me that it was there, I guess. But when I did go in and look, yes, indeed, that was there. And when I did ask, it became almost immediately evident that this being, at first it was very angry and uncontrolled and trying to be scary, and I wasn't afraid because I know that they can't touch me. This is a vibrational world, and when you've reached a certain vibrational standpoint, nothing can really harm you if you don't want it to. I mean, I say that, but let me just back up and say that if there is something that's been attached to you for a very long time, it's familiar, and it may be there already, even as you raise your vibration, and it may still be stuck to you because you haven't understood that it's there, and you need to figure out how to let it go because it can continue to hold on, kind of like a frog in a pot, where it doesn't realize that it's getting hotter and hotter until finally it does get too hot and it's done. But either way, I think there was still enough, perhaps, negative energy left inside of me that it felt comfortable enough to stay. So either way, when I went in and I asked what was going on and I tried to figure out what this thing was all about, I learned, interestingly, that this creature, this being, it was certainly attached to my energy and kind of siphoning it off, but it was also doing so against its own will, which I found interesting. It did not want to be doing that. It was doing it because it didn't have a choice. And what I learned is that it was also enslaved. Isn't that interesting? It was enslaved to do the job that someone wanted it to do. And when I asked it, would it like to return to source, it immediately said yes. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen. When I release entities, and I do it on occasion, sometimes they resist and they don't want to. And you have to send them someplace where they are more energetically attuned, But this one really wanted to go right back. And then not only did that one go, the one that was attached to me, but a whole bunch of other ones too, because they heard what was going on and they were like, oh, I want to join the party. Let me go too. And I released a lot of them. A lot of them. Like, a lot of them. They were very, very happy to go. And I felt immediately the difference in my own energy. It's very interesting that this was what I learned. And it was made clear to me that this had directly to do with the trauma that I survived as a child. So it's not just your physical body that's being affected, it is also your energy body, where you have these attachments that were put there on purpose. And they are feeding on your energy and keeping you stuck. Potentially also putting thoughts into your head, emotions into your field, attracting things that you are like, what is that doing here? I don't understand. Why is this suddenly in my world? I did not ask for that. I didn't feel like I was calling it in. Why is this happening? Yeah, it can be that. So if that might be happening to you, I again suggest you consider thinking about how can you learn from that teacher? How can you go in and make peace with that creature, that entity, and let it go? Just ask it if it wants to go back to source. Would you like to go back to source? I'd be happy to help you. And then that really is all you're doing, is you're saying, I now direct you back to source energy. I send you back to your maker. And that's it. You just have to energetically let them go. It can be very powerful. So trauma it's a multi-layered thing, particularly this kind of trauma. But that's definitely a deep trauma that's being asked to go. at this time. And if that's coming up for you, if this heavy trauma is suddenly in your face and you cannot understand why you're attracted to watching certain news stories or videos or social media posts or certain conversations people are having, like you can't help yourself, look into it. See why it is that you're suddenly attracted to this dark thing that you don't understand. Why is this in my experience? I don't get it. I normally don't pay attention to these kinds of things because I know they trigger me. But suddenly you're interested in them. Why would that be? Maybe because you need to be. Maybe because your attention is being drawn to it so that you can heal it, because it's your time. So pay attention to the signs around you. If that's not the trauma that you're being asked to heal right now, but it's something much different, it doesn't matter. The fact remains that your field is calling it in because we are being asked to let it go. Because the planet is rising in its own energy frequency. The planet itself is drawing us into a higher space energetically because there has been a lot of release recently. I'm sure you've noticed the earthquakes and the volcanoes that have been going on. That's the earth releasing some energy. Again, Ann Tucker talks about that. If you're interested in hearing from her, she has a lot of interesting information around that. But it's a very interesting time to be alive. And even though it may feel on some levels kind of scary and chaotic, again, I will say, chaos is where creation begins. And it's okay that it's chaotic for a moment, because this is where we get to release the things that don't serve us. This is where we get to be raised up to our highest selves. And isn't that what we're always wanting? We want to be our best selves, right? So, do the work. Let it go. You are going to feel so much better when you give yourself this loving attention, because that's what your body needs. That's what your psyche needs. This loving attention from you. You have to be your own parent. You have to be your own lover. You have to be the one who loves yourself enough to say, I'm going to take care of you, honey. Because you deserve that. You deserve to feel good and to be happy and to live a good life and to have wonderful people on your side and to be there for you. You deserve all of that. And if you have none of that yet, it will come to you if you let yourself finally be free of what is blocking your path. Because that's the only thing that's in your way, is these ideas and emotions that block your path. But they may have been put there like a blockade so that you couldn't go forward, because the fear from the dark side of the force is that you will find your power and then you will be there to stop them from doing what they're doing. Oh my goodness, won't that be a day? It's coming soon, you guys. It's coming soon, my friend. And you will see a difference if you let yourself be free. If you take your power back, you will feel the difference, I promise you. So, give yourself permission to be free, to heal. Find the path that feels the best to you. There are so many ways you can do this. There is no one prescribed way. We are all different. Find what feels good to you. Follow your emotional compass. That is your key. The emotions always know the way. Whatever you're feeling, that's how you know this is right for me. Because if it feels good, then it's the right thing. If it feels bad, then it's not. You could even call it light and heavy if you want to. I don't care how you call it. You know, one way or another, if you feel magnetized to it, then it's probably good for you. Or there's something there for you to learn. It doesn't always have to feel good, but it could be an experience that you need to have to open something up, because sometimes negative experiences are exactly what we need to knock our energy loose so that we can have something better. Sometimes we have to topple a place where we've been trapped for a long time in order to get out of there and go to a place that's much nicer for us. We do. And I wish that it wasn't that way, but that is the world right now, unfortunately. And it will get different as we get better at this. You know, as we grow, as we learn, as we challenge ourselves, things will change. This was going to become gentler. But right now, the gentlest thing you can do is to love yourself enough to uphold the energetic need that your body might be asking for right now. And also the physical, too. You know, take your baths, or nice long hot showers, or soak in the hot tub, or sit by a fire. Some of the things that you can do for yourself, wear your grounding shoes, go out in nature. Do something that makes you feel good, right? We have to do those things and give ourselves permission to feel better, because we deserve to nurture ourselves, and we deserve the rest and the compensation that our body requires in order to feel better. So that's part of it too. Love yourself enough, and don't wait for somebody else to remind you that you deserve to feel happy and well. You need to tell yourself those things, because nobody else is going to be there for you like you will be for yourself. You have to be your own best parent and friend. That is who you are to you. And when you can be that for yourself, it's a powerful thing. You feel so centered and so grounded when you get there. I promise you, it is such a different place to be when you recognize that you don't need anyone's approval anymore. You don't need to hear anybody else tell you how good you look. You don't need anybody to lift you up out of your dark places, because you don't live in them anymore. You know how to lift yourself out of the dark place, because you have done the work to figure out what you need in any given moment. That's what your love for yourself can do. And nobody else can do the work except for you. Nobody can do it for you. So give yourself permission. Be gentle with that. Be kind to yourself. You've been through a lot. We all have. If you're on earth right now, you have been through a lot. I'm sorry, even if you seem to be living a blessed life, I know what's going on behind closed doors. None of it is easy. It doesn't matter how blessed our lives may look on the outside. We all know on the inside what's really happening to us, and it isn't always easy. Sometimes it's wonderful, and that's great, but we also know there's a very dark side to life for everybody. And we can't ever know everybody's whole story. We only know our own. So we just got to be there for ourselves. And then that way, honestly, it attracts others into your life too. It brings to you those people who you need in your life because you deserve them, and you finally recognize that you deserve them because you've given yourself the love you need to heal. This is how it works. Letting go of old patterns and old behaviors and old hurts makes room for new things to come. And that's what you can have. Okay? So if that sounds good to you, I congratulate you. It sounds like you're ready to get something out of you and move forward with your life in a more powerful, more sustainable, and honestly, a much better feeling way. You're ready for balance. And that's where we're being called to, is to balance that divine masculine and feminine within us, because each of us really does need to find inside of ourselves the truth of the fact that we all possess both of those qualities inside of ourselves. And when we can balance them within ourselves and welcome them in there, oh man, I'm telling you, it gets magical. It really does at times. And maybe all the time when you finally get to a certain place, right? I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm getting close. And I'm excited for it. I feel like good things are coming. For those of us who have worked really hard, we're being compensated. We just have to be willing to get into that energetic space of being able to receive in order to be as happy as we know we deserve to be. But it takes time to get to the point where you can believe you deserve that. Because if your self-worth has been hammered on all of your life by first the people who did the abuse and now you do it to yourself, yeah, it's not going to go away immediately. That's going to take some time. But you can do it. And it doesn't have to take as long as it used to. I feel like healing is happening faster than it once did. Because I know when I was younger and was trying to do healing, it definitely took a long time to get things done. And now the energy is supporting a much more rapid healing technique and ability than there used to be available to us. So I find that fascinating as well. So either way, during this eclipse season, for sure, this is a huge time for us to heal what's going on, to release a lot of that, to help the entities along the way who are also trapped with us that may want better, and need to go back to where they can be healed themselves and to be freed from their own enslavement. But then I think, again, this can be true anytime. This video does not necessarily have to just be during September of 2025. This could be applicable anytime. So again, this is a timeless video, but at the time of its making, for sure, the time is powerful for the healing. And I would say if you're watching this in an eclipse season at some time in the future, for sure, take advantage of that, because an eclipse season is very a powerful time for reflection and for release of things that do not serve you. So take advantage of that, because that is powerful. And, other times of the year where these certain energies are high can also be effective. We know that equinoxes can be a powerful time for energy, as well as, a solstice. But you also, maybe if you're into astrology and you pay attention to a lot of that stuff, you may also know that there are times in your chart during the year when healing is best for you. Go by what feels right to you. If it feels like now is the time, then do it. You don't have to go by astrology or calendars or even events in the heavens of any kind. You can just go when it feels right. So don't worry about that stuff. I argue against worrying about that stuff too much, because we all have to go by our own internal clocks. So if it feels good to you to take advantage of the energies of a time, then do it. But again, if it feels like now is the time and none of those things are true, then go for it anyways. You got to go by what's internally right to you. That's always my recommendation. Always. You go by your own internal clocks. Always go by your emotional compass. That's the correct thing for you. Never worry about what anybody else is telling you, because you know what's true for you. Okay? So trust that. All right, so this is a very long video, and I'm going to stop now. And I really hope that this helped you. And if you have questions or you want to know more, you can put comments below and let me know what's going on, okay? And I really look forward to the next one. So hopefully some of this energy will start to wind down a little bit, but I have a feeling maybe it's just going to keep getting more intense till we get to the 21st. So we'll see how it goes. But either way, until then, have a wonderful day and be good to yourself. You deserve it.